Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you are new, if you're not new, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marina and I am sticking to one of my goals so far. I'm doing a January reading wrap up today. Everyone cheer, applaud, please. I have read in total 6 books this month and I cannot wait to tell you guys all about them because, not gonna lie, I don't think I had a single bad read so far. Off to a very, very good reading month, and I feel like it can only get better from here. So without further ado, let's get into it. I got a few romances, I have an arc in here, I have a classic. Let's get started. At the beginning of the month, specifically the first day of the year, if you guys remember, I think in one of my previous videos I briefly mentioned that I read my first T. Kingfisher book when I was bringing up like novellas that I wanted to read this year. And T. Kingfisher is an author that I've heard nonstop praise about for years, about the way that she writes short stories and how she is one of the best to do it in terms of like novellas. And I was just curious, so I picked up one of her books, Thornhedge. Wow. What a book. If you guys don't know what Thornhedge is, I think it's T. Kingfisher's only fantasy novella. I think that she mostly writes like horror. This was really fun. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling and we don't follow the princess. It is about a princess locked in a tower, but this is not her story. We are following the person who put the enchantment spell on the princess. The main character of this book, her name is Toadling. She has a long history with magic and fairies. She was actually kidnapped as a baby and taken to a fairy land where she was raised, and she doesn't know why she was taken or the fact that she was taken. For the most part, her whole entire life, she just thought that she was one of the fairies with just like weird differences that no one ever really commented on. But one day she is taken by a kingdom to make sure that she can cast a spell on a princess that offers that princess a blessing or something. And obviously, as we know of the tale of Sleeping Beauty, the spell ends up going completely wrong. And centuries later, we are watching Toadling as she tries to protect the princess who is now sleeping in the tower because of the blessing that went wrong. And throughout centuries of time, many people have tried to enter the tower to wake up the princess through like different stories they've read about it. They just want to see, they just have questions about it. And Toadling's whole entire existence is dedicated to just not letting these princes wake up the princess because they don't know what they're in for if they do wake up the princess. Until one day a prince does come, has an interaction with Toadling, and the story just kicks off from there. And it's really good. It was really good. I had my fun with this. I'm not gonna lie, it took me a second to understand what was going on because I also didn't read a description of it, so I had no idea that it was a Sleeping Beauty retelling. I kind of just was curious, dipped my toes in just to see, and I stayed. So yeah, I thought that the way that T. Kingfisher was able to make Toadling such a, I guess the word I would describe her is warm. Like, she's a character that you would honestly go in with like these thoughts of, oh, she must have like some vendetta against the princess. No, she's just like a really innocent bystander in all of this while also somehow still being the cause of it. And you feel for her throughout the story because all of her life she never really had a choice in who she was meant to be, how she was raised, who she surrounded herself with. And it's just basically her story of how she ended up trapped watching this princess sleep for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's really actually kind of sad, I'm not gonna lie. I thought that the prince character was fine. Again, it wasn't really about the prince or the princess. It's mostly about Toadling, and I think that T. Kingfisher did a good job of doing this retelling. I didn't think it was like the best thing ever, but I did enjoy it. What did I give it? I gave it 4 stars. Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. I would recommend this if like you're into retellings because I think that this is a good one because it's not necessarily the story of Sleeping Beauty, as you can tell like from the way I explained it. It's very different but still has the same essence of it. And I think if you just want something kind of cozy but also, not gonna lie, a little bit scary with the way that it's like being told to you, go ahead, give it a try. I would love to know other people's thoughts on this. I think this is this her latest one? Oh wait, no, this came out in 2023, so it's probably not her latest one because I know that T. Kingfisher stays pumping out books. But yeah, whatever, go read it. I enjoyed it. The next book I'm going to talk about is one that has been highly anticipated from me. No one else asked for this. You guys know I've been talking about doing this forever and I finally started it. I am rereading the Addicted to You series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I am having the time of my life rereading these. I reread the first one almost immediately after reading Thornhedge. Yeah, I'm having a really good time with this. If you guys don't know what the Addicted to You series is about, how can I explain this series for people who are not well versed in this? I don't know. The Addicted to You series specifically, this series follows Lily Calloway and Lauren Hale. They are childhood friends, have been besties since like basically out of the womb. They come from very rich, privileged upbringings. Both of their families own like very well-renowned companies. And you know, they've kind of just been living their lives, having a ball as rich, privileged kids do. The only difference between them and everyone else is that they are addicts. Very much so. Lily is a sex addict and Lauren is an alcoholic. And throughout the entire first book, it's basically about how they enable each other and their addictions and how it could easily lead to their downfall, not only just as friends, but like if they want to take a step further and be in a relationship, how their addictions could heavily affect the relationship and how it could spiral out of control very easily. Like I said, this first book follows Lauren and Lily, but as you guys know, the Calloway sister series, or if you don't know, there's the Calloway sister series that follows the Lee sisters and their relationships with the side characters that you meet all in this first book. This is the first of the 10 books in the Addicted / Calloway sister series. Oh, also a big part of these books is that their family and friends don't know. So like the only people that know about Lauren and Lily's addictions are themselves. They don't really tell anyone else. They are fake dating to keep their family off of their back because their family is very like in the need to know about everything about their lives, and as long as they are fake dating each other, their family stays away from whatever they're going through, because obviously their family has no idea that they're addicts. So throughout their fake dating, they are living together, and of course when they live together they enable each other's addictions, with Lily constantly bringing people to sleep with her to their apartment and Lauren stashing like pounds and pounds of alcohol in cupboards. It's really bad. Their addictions are so bad, especially in this first book. As you read the series, they do get better. They strive to get better, and it's a really beautiful series about not just like romance, because I know that they're marketed as romance books, and I guess they are, but I feel like because my own addiction to this series, me wanting to reread it for years, is solely because I've never read a romance series like this where it focuses heavily on addiction and how it can affect everyone in your life, whether it be your partner, your family, your friends, and how that in turn affects you and your mental health. Because let's just be clear, throughout the whole entire book, specifically Lily, because this book is in her point of view, she constantly feels guilt about how she behaves because of her addiction. She is very much a homebody in the sense where she doesn't leave the house because she is always sleeping with someone. She doesn't reach out to her family. Her sisters always ask for her to join them and go places. She doesn't talk to her sisters. She doesn't have any friends outside of Lauren because she is scared that they will judge her, that she will fail them like she fails her sisters, that she's not a good sister because of her addiction. It's like a whole lot. It's kind of like a character analysis on addiction, and it's very interesting. Now, I'm not gonna lie, they're not the most well-written books. There are some things in here that I'm just like, oh. Specifically with one relationship that I'm not gonna talk about until I get to their book, but the overall theme of this series is addiction and how you can recover from it and be better. And it's kind of like hopeful in a sense where like you do see these characters over the span of 10 books get better. It just takes a lot of time, it takes the right support, and it's just like overall very beautiful. Like my favorite part of this series is the found family that comes with the people that Lauren and Lily meet along their journey of recovery, and it's very beautiful. Like the found family in these books is one that I think about all the time. I love them, specifically Rose and Connor. Yeah, I'm just having a really good time with this. I gave the first book 4 stars as well, and then I gave the novella after it, Ricochet, I gave that, what did I give that, 4.5. Only up from here, I fear. I like this novella a lot. I remember when I first read this series, many people were like, oh, this book is optional, you don't need to read it because Lauren and Lily are separated. And the reason they're separated is because after the first book, Lauren does end up wanting to go to rehab, and so it's just Lily by herself trying to fight off her own addictions so her and Lauren can be together. Very sad, because it's a kind of like a good way to showcase how codependent, I should say, Lauren and Lily are together. They can't be without each other. It's a very honestly self-destructive on their end, the way that their relationship is. And I think this is a good book to understand Lily as a character outside of her addiction and why she feels the way that she does. A lot of therapy talk in this book, which is needed. You also get to know more about the side characters while Lauren is not in this book, and I think I really enjoyed that the most. Again, I feel some type of way about another couple in this book that kind of dented this book for me because they're more prominent in this book. If it weren't for them, I probably would have given this 5 stars because I do think it is a lot better than the first book, even though it is very short. It is a novella. I'm currently reading the 3rd book, Addicted for Now, having the time of my life. I'm also buddy reading these with a friend, and it's a lot more fun because the friend that I'm reading this with has never read the series in her life, and she's confused as to why I call this my comfort series because it is stressing her out. Because what are friends for? Exactly. Okay, so now that I have finished my spiel about the Addicted series, we can get on to other books. I'm so sorry. Let's talk about James Baldwin. Okay, so my first classic I read for this year is If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin. I mentioned this probably in my goals video for 2025, how I want to read one classic a month, and I started off with the one and only James Baldwin. Guys, where do I start with this book? I've never read a James Baldwin book before this. I briefly opened Giovanni's Room like a little over a year ago because one of my friends really wanted me to read that, but I was not in the headspace to read Giovanni's Room, so I DNF'd it. And I decided to give James Baldwin another chance by picking up a different book just for like a clean slate. And oh my god, guys, I could not put this book down. This book was so good. We are following Tish and Fonny. Tish and Fonny are childhood friends. They've known each other since they were kids, lived in the same neighborhood, basically grew up around each other's families. They have always been in each other's lives, and it was kind of always destined for them to be together. Like, everyone around the block has always said, like, oh, they're gonna be together. They're gonna end up happily married. They will live on together until the end of time. Like, they're literally soulmates. And so that is the plan. Fonny and Tish are happily in love. They are talking about marriage, living together, all of this stuff, until Fonny gets wrongfully incarcerated. He gets sent to prison, and the book follows Tish trying to figure out a way to get him out of there because she also found out that she is pregnant with his baby. I think that the way that James Baldwin explored her character in particular, because it's mostly in her point of view, was very, again, well done in a way that I've never really read from classics. Granted, growing up in high school, I think I mentioned this before, I was not into classics, mostly because they bored me. I've never really read a classic that centers around a black woman and her thoughts about the world and how she sees the world and how the world differs from her in her own experiences, and how that can make her enemy target number 1 simply because of who she is and her background and all of this stuff. It was very interesting. I liked reading it. Gave it 4 stars. The only thing that was weird to me about the book was the ending. I was not a fan of that ending. I'm not gonna say anything, but when you think it couldn't get sadder, when you think it couldn't get even more traumatic, it somehow did in like the last 3 pages. What the hell? I'm still trying to get over it. But yeah, that's If Beale Street Could Talk. Very romantic book, but also it's not a romance. Don't go into it thinking it's a romance. It's not. It has romantic elements, of course, as you get flashbacks of Tish and Fonny throughout their lives together, how they met, how they became friends, how they ended up getting together. It's a very beautiful love story, but like once you peel back that side of the story, it's very sad because it's about the reality of being black in America. So yeah, okay. But yeah, like I said, really enjoyed it. I will be reading more James Baldwin, hopefully within the new year. Next book I read is a book that has been on my radar forever, like since it came out a few years ago, because I've heard nothing but praise about this book. And I've been hesitant to read it because it's not a genre that I usually read. But something about it has always just like caught my eye. So I decided to read the audiobook for it, Crying in H-Mart by Michelle Zauner. This is my first memoir in a while. I genuinely think the last memoir I read was ironically another one about a daughter and her mommy issues. I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy like 2 years ago. It was around the time it came out. And I think that was the last time I read a memoir, which is crazy. And I don't know what it is about these types of books catching my eye, but I saw the audio was available and I read it and I loved it. I gave it a 4.5. The tears, the emotion. Sad, I feel like isn't even a good enough word to describe this book, because it's not just sad. It's beautiful, it's heartwarming, hopeful, it's informative. The food descriptions in here, I should explain what this book is about. Yeah, this book follows Michelle, and she is grieving the death of her mother by going to H-mart and crying. She's reflecting on her life with her mom, the ups and downs that her mom and her had throughout their relationship, and trying to figure out how to reflect on those while also grieving the passing of her mother. And she does this while going to H-mart. Whenever she thinks about her mom, she ends up cooking or making food, and those memories of the food always like help her grieve. So like in a way, we're going through her life story and how her mom deeply impacted her life and what her life was like as a mixed child. I think she's Korean and white, I'm pretty sure. A mixed child who grew up in 2 different countries, never really had a sense of identity growing up, and how that kind of made her and her mom's relationship a lot more tumultuous because of the different upbringings they had. And then you also have the added factor of just her trying to figure out her culture growing up in ways that her mom didn't teach her, and also ways that her mom did. It's a book about grief. Also like very beautiful because it touched on so many other topics. Like the generational trauma in this book is crazy, but like while it made me sad, it also felt very light. Like I don't know, I feel like Michelle Zauner is kind of funny, and so like I felt myself laughing when I felt like I should not be laughing. Like there's a talent when it comes to this, right? Like you can't talk about a book that deals with like grief, loss, mommy and daddy issues, generational trauma, identity, culture, while still managing to keep the book light and kind of funny. Like that's not easy, and yet Michelle Zauner did that. And I think honestly reading it on audio helped because she is the one reading the audiobook, and so like you could tell when something was meant to be witty or when something was meant to be serious. And like obviously reading a book you can kind of tell, but I feel like when I, not gonna project this on you guys, but when I read a memoir, I like to read it with the author's voice in my ear so I can know how they wanted this passage to be read, how their emotions are conveyed in what they're reading, and how they wrote what they put out. Like I like reading memoirs on audio, and so I feel like hearing her voice and the way that she's like navigating these whirlwinds of emotions that come with grief, while also talking about the happy memories that are also bittersweet with her mom because she didn't cherish those, while also trying to get like, I don't know, reinvested in her upbringing, her culture on her Korean side of the family. It's like a lot of things in this book that just really touched me, like really touched my heart in a way that I really was not expecting. It was brilliant. And again, the food descriptions made me hungry, like really hungry. On a serious note, the way that she wrote these foods, I love me some Korean food, so it was making me so hungry. Yeah, 4.5 for Crying at H-mart by Michelle Zauner. Go read Crying at H-mart if you haven't already, specifically on audio. If you have not read it on audio, I highly recommend the audiobook. Like I can't recommend it enough. The last book of the month that I actually finished last night. I'm recording this on the 31st, so by the time you guys see this, it'll probably be out because I got an arc of this book like a few weeks ago and I just read it because I procrastinate. I read Spring Awakening, the first book in J.S. Jasper's new training season series. This is a sports romance, and I'm sure the others are going to be sports romances as well, which I'm very excited about because I liked this. I thought that this was a really good book. As you guys know, this was one of my anticipated releases of 2025, but it was simply because Black sports romance. Like I genuinely had nothing else to say other than that when I was talking about my anticipated releases, and I was really honored to get the arc for it. Was not expecting to get the arc for it, but regardless, all that to say, I really liked this book. So if you don't know what Spring Awakening is about, we follow the main character Mally. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I hope that's how you pronounce her name. Sorry if it's not. Mally is a girl just trying to get her foot in the door when it comes to work, okay? She is starting a new life for herself as the PR manager of her town's rugby team, and she has a new apartment, she has her cat, she's living like a block away from her parents, she's like living good. She's very satisfied with her life. She just wants this job to go well so her parents don't have to constantly force going to med school down her throat. Meanwhile, we have our love interest, Zach, or Zachariah, he is on the rugby team. He is known for not having the best reputation amongst the team and or just the public. Known for sleeping around, being very rude, very arrogant, very grumpy. Grumpy Sunshine Trump is in here. Yes, you heard that right. He doesn't start off on the right foot when it comes to his interactions with Mally. He's very to himself and he doesn't really know how to talk to people. And there you have Mally, who is very talkative, very bubbly, is very nice right on the spot without even having to ask any questions. She's like an angel from up above and he's kind of like, oh, our vibes, we're not matching. Like, he's so thrown off by her kindness that he's kind of like, oh, I don't really know what to do. She takes that in a wrong way. So like at the beginning of the book, they don't start off all that great, but once he finds out that she's here to stay, like as a job, she is their PR manager, he's kind of like trying to win her over because he does fall for her like right on the spot. It's kind of instantaneous, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, his whole entire goal is just figuring out how to talk to her. And it's very sweet. Very kind of rom-com adjacent. I say this book is very funny. This book is very sweet, wholesome. There are some like dark elements in here when it comes to like real life issues, like family problems. But besides that, this book is very lighthearted. I enjoyed it mostly because it was funny. As for the romance, I am not a fan of insta love. That is what this book was. I like build up to my romance because at first when they didn't get off on the right foot, I was like, oh, we're gonna have some tension, some build up, some angst. And while there was some build up to their relationship, a lot of build up actually, it's a slow burn for sure in my opinion. But in terms of feelings, they're like less than 10% into the book already into each other, and I'm not a fan of that. But I liked the book. I liked the characters, all of the characters outside of Zach and Mally. I really like the side characters because you know how like in companion novels you can see like side relationships forming. The side relationship with one of Zach's rugby player friends, I need that book immediately. Whatever he's going through, what's his name, Ezra and the other girl, I need that book immediately. I could see the tension in those two from a mile away. I need it. But yeah, this book, I gave it a 3.5. It was good. It was fine. If you're looking for like a good, lighthearted, fun, rom-com type of romance book, specifically sports romance, I think this is definitely the one you should look out for. And yeah, that's it. Those are all of the books that I read. And I'm still reading, guys. I am so happy. I don't know if you guys can tell. I have not read this much in so long, like back to back to back. I feel like a new person. I feel like I'm not new, but I feel like I'm back. I feel like we are so back and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to do reading wrap-ups again because I haven't done these in a while either, guys. 2025, new year, kind of new me, I guess. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, thank you. If you'd like to follow me on my social media, it'll be linked down in the description below. If you read any of these books, let me know your thoughts on them. If you want me to read anything, recommend stuff in the comments below. I'm very open to reading now. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone.